welcome to the vlog. I'm Tova, this is ParentXP. Back in early 2018, we decided, in consultation with Elin's gastroenterologist, to put Elin through PEG surgery to put a feeding tube into her stomach to help with her calorie and fluid requirements. We have put together a series of videos documenting this process. In the last video, I was talking about meeting the surgeon for the first time and having a consultation with her. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what happened at the pre-op assessment, which was held shortly before the actual operation. Elin and I went into Addenbrooke's, and we went there in really good time. Decided that we'd rather be there early and sit down and eat lunch and then go to the appointment than having an early lunch and then stressing. I don't like that. It's a long drive, and you can't ever guarantee the traffic and that you're going to be on time, and these things take a long time. So we started with weighing little madam, and she can actually sit unsupported for just about long enough to get a reliable reading on one of those chair scales. Tack gumman! Tack vännen, det där var väldigt hjälpsamt. Ska du ha den i håret? Okej. Vänta. Åh, fin du är. Okej, jag kan inte göra allting samtidigt. Så ta den. Så sätter jag upp Nunas hår. Åh, vad fint du borstar. Chair scales, yes, and she weighs over 14 kilos, which is just brilliant. So she's put on a lot of weight since we've had the NG tube in and the specialist milk for her. So very, very pleased with that, because that makes a world of difference. Ska du ha den? Den i håret? Nej, okay. Where was I? Might have to cut so much out of this, but I am going to get through it. I am going to get useful. No. Ska du ha den? Ska du ha alla grejerna? Ja? Allting, mamma. Allting till mig, mamma. Allting. Kan du säga? Allt till mig. Allt till Alice. Alice, allt. Elin had a pre-op assessment. Oh, this is going so well. Yes, so 14 kilos. Very happy with that. And then this lovely nurse took her blood pressure, her temperature, and she did MRSA swabs as well, because that's really important. And then we were done with that particular woman, and we sat down in the waiting room, which was a bunch of chairs in a corner of a corridor. So not help. Tack, det räcker. Not the most exciting of waiting rooms. So we sat there for a little while and had a bit of a chat, and Elin had a bit of a pump, and then we got to meet the pre-op nurse. And the pre-op nurse den också. 2 årspännen. Nu är du jättefin. The pre-op nurse. Goodness. This is going so well. The pre-op nurse, one of the first things she did was apologising for the lack of anaesthetist. Because he clearly said in the notes that we were supposed to meet the anaesthetist, but something, and they were scheduled to come, but something had happened and they were not available. So, you know, you can never guarantee these things, can you? But it is a bit of a shame because we really did want to meet with the anaesthetist because Elin reacts so badly to going under general anaesthetics. She is one of these children who comes out of a GA furious, and I mean furious. She can have been under GA for less than 45 minutes for an MRI. She comes out, she screams for 5 hours. And you just can't calm her down. So it would have been good to have had that chat. But she, the nurse I did meet, she made a point of saying that we know you were supposed to meet the anaesthetist and these are the notes about why. So it felt really good because it feels like this is a team where they clearly talk to each other and where they clearly read through notes. And more importantly, where the staff you've met before have listened to you and made the correct notes. So that was really nice. It was a nice surprise. The other thing that she mentioned that was also proof that they really have listened to us was to say that a morphine pump has been ordered. So I was very happy with that. She is probably not going to need a morphine pump, but it's nice to have it just in case. So anyway, back into the waiting room we went and we sat down for a bit longer and then we got to meet the surgical nurses. So one of them we had met before when we had the surgical council, and back then he went through the procedure. And at this pre-op assessment, they went through the procedure again. Everything, the best case scenario, slightly worst case scenario, and worst possible case scenario. They went through all of those and showed us the tube that's going into her stomach and how stretchy it is and all of those things. And I think that's really good because a lot of people might not remember from the first time. If this is the first time your child is having an operation, or if your child is a lot younger, so you haven't been hardened by the realities yet, it can be really quite scary and you may not really take in what they say the first time. So the fact that they go through it a second time, I thought was absolutely fantastic. They actually started the conversation with the question, what procedure do you think she's having done? And hej, är du på gott humör nu? Du är en jättelycklig tjej nu. And that's another thing that I really appreciated because they're asking it to check what you know, but in my mind it is, okay, we are on the same page. And that is so important. You need to know what procedure your child is having, and you need to know how it's done and what it entails. So yeah, I really appreciated that. And a couple of other things that they were talking about. They were talking about reflux. She suffers really badly from reflux at the moment, and they said there is a risk that reflux gets worse with the PEG, which kind of surprised me because I thought, you know, at the moment she's having the NG tube, so this goes through her nose, down her throat, into her stomach. It keeps her esophagus open a little bit because, well, there's a tube there. Her esophagus can't close fully. So if you have a lot of reflux and your esophagus isn't closing properly, that makes it worse. So I was kind of hoping that with the PEG, her esophagus might be able to recover and start closing properly and her reflux would get better, which is still a possibility, but apparently there is a risk that the reflux gets worse. So that's a shame. Hey. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But this also meant that they mentioned other things. So they mentioned a JEG, which is a different type of gastrostomy, and they mentioned a Nissen's fundoplication, which is quite a severe operation in which you I'm not going to go into the details, but you make the esophagus tighter. You pull it much tighter, which means that things can't bubble up. So we had a bit of a chat about that, and I said that we'd gone through both of these options with Elin's gastroenterologist when we met her last, and in her view, anisins is the last option, particularly on a child with CP, because it can often be quite distressing and not work properly, or make it very painful on a child with CP. So she'd rather try to fix Elin's reflux with non-surgical interventions long before she considers anisins. Again, staff that really listens and staff that really cares about Elin's well-being. And a JEG, so the difference between a PEG and a JEG. A PEG is a hole straight into her stomach with a tube. So instead of having the tube through her nose, we're going to have her tube through her stomach, and we're going to give her her supplemental feeds and her medicines and her water through that. And we get rid of the NG tube. The NG tube is not a permanent solution. It comes out regularly. She pulls it out. It really disgustingly comes up when she vomits and other lovely things like that. So the PEG is just a much more long-term solution. A PEG will last on average 2 years. It can last longer. Rare occasions it needs replacing a bit sooner, but let's have as a hallmark 2 years is going to be in there without us needing another procedure. A JEG, on the other hand, is a 2-port version where one port is in the stomach and the other port is in the intestines. So the advantage of a JEG is we would be able to put food straight into her intestines, and if it's not in her stomach, she can't vomit it up. It's too low down for her to vomit it up. So if she is being really vomity and really struggling to keep things down, then a JEG would allow us to keep her hydrated, keep her nutrition levels up, keep her calorie levels up without her being constantly sick from it. The disadvantage of a JEG is it needs replacing every 6 months under general anaesthetics, and Elin doesn't respond very well to general anaesthetic. In consultation with her gastroenterologist, we have talked through it as an option, and we have decided to try medical intervention before surgical intervention. So the PEG is a surgical intervention, and we have definitely reached a point in Elin's life when we need it and when we are happy to have it. But I think we're not at JEG level yet. It may very well be that she has one in the future, particularly if PEG and medicines doesn't control her vomiting and reflux, in which case we will reconsider. But for now, we're going to start with the PEG and medication and see if we can get it under control. She's so happy. She's so happy. She's so happy. Yeah, so that was the pre-op assessment, and by the time we were done with all 3 meetings, an hour and 15 minutes had gone by. So I was really happy we were a bit early for our appointment and started a bit early. I hope you enjoyed seeing the update on the pre-op assessment, and tune in next week for the final video in the series in which we're talking about the surgery itself, how it went and how Elin was recovering from it.